Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. A couple weeks ago, we took a look at the Taurus 856, a 6-shot 38 special revolver that's a solid choice for people looking for self-defense on a tight budget. Today, we're going to take a look at the 856's 9mm semi-automatic brother, the G3. Real quick before we get going though, I just wanted to say that this video is going to be a little more in-depth than my usual video because I think there's a lot of people that are actually looking for information on the G3. Also, if you're looking for information on that 856, I will drop a link in the description to that video as well. The vast majority of handguns sold today are of the striker fired variety. These guns are rugged, dependable, and they offer generous capacity for their size. However, the usual suspects of the striker fire category, your Glocks, your Smith & Wessons, these are sometimes out of reach for people that are on a very tight budget, and that's where the G3 comes in. This thing offers striker fire performance at a very reasonable price. Speaking of affordability, the G3's MSRP is $340, but as usual can be found on the street for less than that. I got this for $250 at Brownells. There's also a optics ready version called the G3 Toro, and the MSRP on that one is $450. All right, let's get this unboxed. The G3 comes in the standard Taurus box. It's white and orange. It tells you to always bring it. When you open it up, got some lifetime warranty stuff, some coupons, got your owner's manual, which you should read. Got the trigger lock that no one uses, and we have the G3 itself. Got the G3 here. It's got a magazine here, and you should double check because in my box, there's actually another magazine down in here. So yeah, this version comes with two mags. This one is a 17-round mag, and this one is a 15-round mag. The G3 is the successor to the popular and successful G2C, and as such, it's an evolution or refinement of the design. While the G2C is a compact handgun in terms of size, very similar to a Smith & Wesson Shield, the G3 is noticeably large. It's 7.28 inches long, 5.2 inches tall, and it is 1.2 inches wide. It has a 4-inch barrel with a 1 in 10 twist, and it weighs about 25 ounces unloaded, according to Taurus. The G3 has a polymer frame, a stainless steel barrel, and a steel slide. The slide is finished in a matte black tenifer finish that looks very similar to what we saw in the 856 revolver. The sights that are mounted on the gun are a blacked out rear sight with a white dot front post sight. The frame of the G3 sports a good sized 1913 pick rail for mounting accessories, and also these small relieve sections on both sides of the frame for your thumbs. The slide stop and external safety are only on the left side of the frame, so they're not ambidextrous and not able to be switched to the other side, which is something that left-handed shooters might want to consider. The mag release is also on the left side of the frame, and this, however, is reversible and can be switched to the right side for the lefties out there. Also on the frame, we can see the polymer trigger shoe and the safety blade in the middle, as well as the generous texturing that Taurus throws in all the way around the frame. We see a trigger and sear system that is very reminiscent of the M&P system, where the striker is held at the fully cocked position by the sear, which is back here. There is one noticeable difference to the trigger action though, which I'll talk about in a minute. Now, inside the slide also looks very similar to a Glock for those of you that are familiar with that. We've got the striker channel back here, and we've got the striker block safety, as well as a hooked cartridge extractor. I mentioned a second ago that there was one aspect to the trigger that sets it apart, and I wanted to look into that now. The G3 actually has a second strike capability, which means that if the shooter pulls the trigger and the round in the chamber fails to ignite, the shooter can pull the trigger again to manually cock and release the striker on that same round without having to cycle the slide. So let's take a look at that. First, we're going to make sure that we are clear. Okay, so we're going to pull the trigger like normal, and let's pretend that the round did not go off. So without cycling the slide, I'm going to pull the trigger again, and as you can see, it's a much longer travel, but it still drops that striker. One more time. Again, the pull distance for that is longer, and the weight of the trigger pull is actually heavier, but it's actually a really nice feature to have. Speaking of trigger pull weight, let's take a second and test the pull weight of the G3 really quick. So we're going to start out with the striker in the normal position, which is cocked. And that was just a little bit over 5.5 pounds. This one is just shy of 5.5 pounds. So now we're going to test the pull weight in the second strike or double action mode. That one's right at 6 pounds basically. Maybe just a hair above 6 pounds. That one's at about 6.5 pounds, maybe a little above that because I placed it a little bit higher on the trigger shoe. Really quick before we move on, I wanted to talk about the magazines that are included with the G3. Again, there's a 17 round extended and a 15 round flush fit. The thing that I would like to note here is that the 15 round, if you can see that, is actually made by Metgar and it's stamped as so on the front of the magazine, but the 17 round is not. It just says caliber 9mm, actually says made in Brazil instead of made in Italy. And you can also tell on the back of the mag, the extended one has the seam running down the middle that the Metgar one does not. So if you care about that, that both of the magazines are Metgar, just know that the flush fit is, but the extended one is not. The 17 round does have this little sleeve on here to make sure it looks nice when it's in the gun. Throw it in. It does give you a little bit more length on the grip there. Now that we've taken a look at the specs and features of the G3, I wanted to talk a bit about what I liked about it, and there are actually a number of those things. So from front to back, for some sense of order, the first thing I liked was that the included sights are metal and that they're Glock compatible. That's kind of a big deal for me because that gives up people options for replacing them. I like the style of the sights themselves. They're a blacked out rear and a simple white dot front, which is my preferred sight arrangement. I like the second strike capability, like we talked about, and I also like the relatively lightweight trigger pull in normal mode. That was kind of surprising for me that it was that light. I also like the really short trigger reset, which I can probably demonstrate to you right now. I pop that out. So we'll pull the trigger, cycle a slide, and resets right there. Pretty short. I like the aggressiveness of the texturing on the frame, which reminds me a lot of my M&P. I'm really big on an aggressive frame texture. Lastly, I really like the short length of pull, which is the distance from the back of the frame to the trigger shoe. This distance is notably shorter than a lot of guns I own, and as a shooter with smaller hands, this makes this very comfortable for me to shoot. Now for some things that I don't like as much. First off is the external safety. I understand why some people would be looking for this feature. Personally, I don't prefer it, and I wish there was at least an option to get the G3 without the external safety. It does actuate nice and positively, very tactile. You can hear it on and off, and it gives me a good place to ride the safety with my thumb when I'm shooting, so that's something at least. The second thing I don't like is the very long pre-travel for the trigger. I understand that it's a necessary evil for that second strike capability, but I would still like it if Taurus was able to reduce that to a shorter pre-travel somehow. Finally, and this is the most minor of complaints, I do not like the finish on the slide. It just screams cost cutting, and it's great at attracting any sort of dust and lint in the vicinity, and it kind of makes it a pain to clean. The G3 is back, and it's got upgrades. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking another look at the G3 and some upgrades that I think a lot of people consider when they buy one. I've picked out two that I think I like the best, and today we're going to see if they're worth it. First, if you haven't checked it out yet, I have a video overview of this G3 already on the channel. I will link that video in the description for you to check out. Now, I think one upgrade that most, if not all people who buy a G3 will end up putting on it is a weapon light. Maybe they purchased this because it's their do-it-all carry / home defense / range gun, or they just got one because they want something that they can tacticalize and make it look cool. Either way, this is going to need a weapon light. The one I've got here is a Streamlight TLR7A Flex. This is a 500 lumen compact weapon light, and it's notable because it comes with two different size switch options. It's got a high mount and a low mount. These are the high mount switches. You can see that they kind of sit up here. The low mounts sit pretty far down here. The light is held in place with a standard 1913 rail with a clamp-on style system, and it's also got an indexing plate in there. Streamlight includes a number of these plates so you can find the one that's the right size for the rail on your weapon. After you drop the right size plate in, the light slides onto your rail, and then there's a screw on the side here that tightens the whole thing up. The light is powered by a CR123A battery that Streamlight also throws in the package. The TLR7A Flex can be found in a lot of places for between $130 and $150. So the TLR7 is activated by pushing down or in on the switches on either side of the weapon, just like that. Push and hold for a momentary on. You can tap for a constant on. And there's also a strobe mode that's locked out from the factory. This can be activated by tapping quickly 9 times and then holding on the 10th tap. While you're holding, the strobe will activate, indicating that the mode is unlocked. And then when it's unlocked, to access it, it's just a quick double tap of the switch. Disabling or locking out the strobe can be done by following the same steps that you use to enable it. 9 quick taps, press and hold on the 10th tap. While you're holding, the strobe will change to a constant on, and that will indicate that the strobe is locked out. Now, the second upgrade that I put on this is the front sight. The G3 ships with a simple metal white dot front sight, and I wanted something that has a bit bigger dot and is a little bit easier to pick up. Taurus does make a factory upgraded front sight, but it was out of stock when I went to order one, and actually I think that they're still out of stock right now as I make this video actually. Anyway, instead I took advantage of the fact that the G3 uses Glock sights, and I purchased this Ameriglo Tritium front sight that has all the same features as the Taurus factory upgrade part, which is also actually branded Ameriglo now that I think about it. It's worth it to note here that the sight I got is 0.165 inches in height, whereas the G3 uses a sight that is 0.160 inches tall. The extra 0.05 inches in height of this sight shouldn't make a huge difference in elevation shift at closer distances, but if there is a shift, it would become more apparent at further distances. So if you want something that's the exact correct height, I recommend looking for a 0.160 inch tall sight, like that factory Taurus one that I mentioned. Pricing for upgraded sights varies. The factory Taurus one is $30 from the Taurus store, and I got this one for $40 at Brownells. It's really nice. It's got a nice big white circle that's easier to pick up than the factory Taurus sight. It's got a tritium vial in there, so it makes it a nice sight. And there we go. Yeah, you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like when you pick it up. Nice and easy to pick up. Nice big white dot. So what do I think overall? Are these upgrades worth it, especially considering the price of the G3 itself? For the Ameriglo front sight, I'm going to say, yeah, it definitely is. The larger dot is easier to pick up, and it's got the added benefit of being a night sight. The upgrade is easy to do, and even considering the cost of a Glock front sight tool, it's worth it, especially if you get the factory Taurus part that's even less expensive than this one. For the TLR7, it's a little bit more complicated. The light is fantastic, don't get me wrong. There's a reason it's one of the most popular weapon lights out there. However, there's no ignoring the fact that it costs more than half of the price of the entire G3 itself. Some people would say that's the price you pay for a good weapon light. Others would find that that's simply out of their budget. For me, yes, it's worth it, especially if you're willing to do some creative digging online for deals. Amazon, eBay, the Gun Deals subreddit, all these are great resources to find a TLR7 for a good price. So that's it. Those are my thoughts on upgrades for the Taurus G3. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Apologies for being gone for the last couple weeks. I was not really feeling all that great, but I'm back, and today we're doing a quick video on a great optic mounting solution for the Taurus G3. I'm going to do a quick recap of the G3, and then we're going to take a look at this kit and what it contains, and then I'm going to talk about some things to keep in mind if you're looking to pick up one of these for yourself. Now, before we get started, just a couple notes as usual. Everything that I talk about in my videos can be found in the blog links page, which is linked in that description below. Secondly, the upgrade that we're looking at today does not in any way alter the internal function of the G3. It's an external only change, and we're using parts directly from the manufacturer. Furthermore, we're not altering the G3 in any way that you cannot also buy directly from the manufacturer. Last but certainly not least, if you appreciate what I'm doing here, consider throwing me a super thanks, because from the guns to the optics and especially the ammo, this channel is entirely self-funded out of my own pocket, so any and every little bit you want to throw me definitely helps. Now, a quick recap of the G3. Now, the one thing that the G3 lacks from the factory is a way to mount an optic, which is becoming very popular in today's handgun world. Up until now, an optic cut was not available on basically any G3, but this changed with the introduction of the Toro models of the G3 and the G3C, which do come standard with an optic cut and with adapter plates. Realizing that existing owners of the G3 and G3C might want this upgrade, Taurus has come out with this Toro cut slide as a standalone upgrade to the standard G3 and G3C models, and that makes this a very easy way to upgrade an existing G3 like ours. MSRP for this Toro kit is about $200, but it sometimes goes on sale for as little as $120, which is what I got it for. The Toro kit comes from Taurus complete and basically ready to rock and drop onto any G3. First, I will show you the barcode and stuff here, so y'all can get a look at that. Now, opening the box, we've got the Toro slide itself. We've got some adapter plates and hardware, and we've got an Allen wrench down in there. Now, we'll note that the slide is finished in that same matte black tender finish as the standard G3 slide, so it shares the same benefits and drawbacks as that factory slide. The optic cut itself is covered by that included cover plate, and Taurus also includes mounting hardware and these adapter plates to mount an optic. Now, the standout thing about this kit is that the slide is shipped already assembled with the striker system already installed and ready to go. This saves the user from the trouble of having to pull all these parts out of their existing slide to transfer them over, which makes this upgrade much easier. Basically, all that you need to do here is to take the barrel and recoil system out of the existing slide, drop them into the Toro slide, and after that it's ready to have an optic mounted and then be put back on the frame. Now, mounting that optic consists basically of selecting the right mounting plate for your application, mounting that slide to the plate, and mounting the optic to the plate. The plates sit very securely on the slide, as you can see, and they're further held in place by these notches that are machined into the plate that correspond with these tabs that are machined into the slide by Taurus. The plates all seem like they're very good quality, made out of steel, and Taurus is nice enough to throw in plates for all the popular optic footprints right in the box. Now, once everything is mounted up and torqued down, I can say that the system is very solid and it seems like it can stand up to some tough use. I use the hardware that Taurus includes to mount up this Swamp Fox Justice that some of you may remember from the PDP videos. Even with the added thickness of the Ironside's shield, the screws look like they've got a healthy amount of engagement into the slide, which makes me feel good that this won't work its way loose even under hard use. Overall, for the $120 I paid, I think that this is a very solid upgrade. In terms of cost, it's very comparable to having the slide sent out to a machine shop to be milled for an optic, but it comes with the added benefit of being able to keep that factory slide as an easy way to flip back and forth between setups. The only thing that lacks, and stop me if you heard me say this before, is co-witness sights. That's something that I'm going to be taking care of in a video coming up soon. If that's something that interests you, make sure you subscribed and you've got that bell rung. Throw me a like or a comment if you appreciate what I'm doing, and if you really appreciate what I'm doing, consider throwing me a super thanks. That's all I've got for you this time, so until next time, stay safe.